Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at multiplying integers. By the end of this lesson you want to be able to multiply integers accurately. First, let's just use some models to show the following. So remember, multiplication just means repeated addition. So when I have 3 times 2, it's really positive 3 times positive 2. So we have 2, 2, and 2. So all together we have 6 positives. Here we have negative 2 3 times, so we have a negative, Alright, so then this gives us 6 negatives. See if you can try the next two on your own. So we have 2 times 4, so we have 8 positives, and here we have two groups of negative 4, or 8 negatives. So what pattern do you start to notice here? If you think about the pattern, we can start to make a conjecture or a rule that a positive times a positive is a positive. This shouldn't be anything new. It's what you've done your whole life so far. But when we start doing a positive times a negative, we start to see a negative answer. But does that cover all of our situations? What about a negative times a negative? So for example, negative 3 times negative 2. Let's take a look at another set of patterns. So we know that 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, because we had negative 2 3 times. Okay? 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 1 times negative 2 would be negative 2. Well, 0 times anything is 0. Before we extend on, let's start to look at our pattern this way. If you notice, each time we are increasing by 2. So if we follow that pattern, 0 plus 2 is 2, plus 2 is 4, and plus 2 is 6. Now if you look at that and you notice that, well, wait a minute, on the bottom we had two negatives times each other and they equal a positive. That brings us to our multiplication of integer rules. So the product of two numbers with the and these are actually mixed around. This should be same sign, is always positive. And the product of two numbers with different signs is always negative. So really we're going to multiply just like we normally do, and then we're just going to look at the signs and see if there is a negative sign or not. So 4 times negative 2, we just do 4 times 2 is 8. There's a positive times a negative, so it's different signs, so it would be negative 8. 3 times 4 is 12. They are both negative, so they have the same sign, so this would be positive 12. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try the next two on your own. So 2 times 5, hopefully you said was 10. We have different signs, so it's negative 10. 3 times 6 is 18. They're both positive, so it's positive 18. So an elevator takes passengers from the ground floor of a mall to the underground parking ramp. If it travels at a rate of 5 feet per second, where would it be in relation to the ground after 6 seconds? So it's descending 5 feet per second and it's traveling for 6 seconds. We can do 5 times 6, which would be 30, but because it's going below ground, or negative 5 times 6, it would be 30 feet below. So, or negative 30. Right? I want you to include that negative 30 on your note that you leave me on Edmodo, and then make sure you leave any other questions that you may have.